corrupt elites, pedophilia, pizza.
People really did believe that something was going on in this pizzeria in Washington based on the fact that cryptic emails ordered a cheese pizza.
During the 2016 U.S. presidential election, Pizzagate went viral. One wrong click would send someone down the digital rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. But are conspiracy theories purely a modern phenomenon?
So there's a lot of speculation about whether conspiracy theories are more prevalent now or not, and I think, honestly, the jury is sort of still out on that one.
Conspiracies have been around as long as there have been human beings around. It is a way to explain the unexplainable.
Could looking at the past help us understand the present?
When I started to learn about QAnon, I was really struck because it seemed almost like they had the old medieval playbook out and they were reading from it. But it was just like the pinball machine. All the lights started lighting up and I could see patterns that hadn't been there before. I didn't set out to study conspiracy theories, but I think in the context of the last 2 years, I had to start thinking about them because it became apparent to me conspiracy theories really can impact the way the world works.
Conspiracy theories are the idea that a nefarious group is conspiring towards a malicious or unlawful goal.
Conspiracy theories cover everything, from subliminal messages in advertisements to the moon landing. But the one thing that unites them?
It's this simple narrative. You've got a villain. The villain is hidden. The villain is doing all of their evil out of sight. You have the victims who are oppressed and poor and deserving of our sympathy. And then you have the hero who's going to come along and unmask the villain.
In the Middle Ages, the biggest villain was the devil himself.
The conspiracy theory that really started everything off in the Middle Ages was anti-Judaism and the belief that the Jews were conspiring together to regain the Holy Land through a pact with the devil, whereby they would sacrifice a Christian child every year at Easter and then eventually the devil would give them Jerusalem back. Once this idea took root, it seemed to become almost a matter of habit to develop conspiratorial beliefs about how the world was being run. The greatest, most fevered conspiracy theorist of the Middle Ages was King Philip the Fair, or Philip IV of France. The conspiracy with which he is most associated involved the Templars. The Templars were an order of monk knights who were based in Jerusalem. The idea behind the Templars was that they would live like monks, but they would fight like warriors. So they would renounce property, they would renounce family, they would live together in a community, and the Templars made money hand over fist. They collected donations, they built churches all over Europe. They became so successful that they could manage the bank accounts for the kings of France. In 1307, Philip the Fair decided he needed to get rid of the Templars. He did it by devising his own conspiracy theory. He said the Templars have been engaging in shocking practices.
Practices that may sound familiar.
Sodomy, pederasty, and Satan worship, and also sorcery. In very conspiratorial fashion, he dispatched people all around France and in a single one-night operation arrested all the Templars. It's one of the most successful conspiracies of all time and the most successful of the Middle Ages.
But conspiracies didn't die with the Middle Ages.
Anytime we have moments of political or social upheaval, there's going to be an increase in conspiracy theories. Also, across time, conspiracy theories have similar elements, and usually it has to do with something that's going on at the time that is hard to explain or is very uncertain, where they're trying to look for an explanation.
To distinguish between truth and fake news requires information, and that was sometimes hard to come by.
Anytime you're talking about an early modern or a pre-modern historical event, it's important to keep in mind that information was always at a premium. Most of the time, people didn't know what was going on. They had often no way of discerning whether something was truth or whether it was just another rumor. So I think it's especially the case in these environments where information is scarce and where you have few means of deciding what information you can trust, that conspiracy theories are all the more likely to spring up. And indeed, they were everywhere during the French Revolution. One of the most important groups during the French Revolution is the Jacobins. It's a club that originated in Paris in 1789 at the start of the revolution. By 1792, it really came to be seen as one of the more radical wings of the French revolutionaries. And in particular, it was very well represented in politics. They were often the ones pushing for purges, pushing to eliminate members of the assembly, to delegitimize many of their opponents. The Jacobins, like other revolutionaries at the time, had ready recourse to conspiracy theories that linked their opponents to foreign governments, to foreign wealth, and to known and open counter-revolutionaries. And they used this technique, they almost perfected into a strategy in order to delegitimize their rivals. This is one of the areas where the French Revolution is so important, because it's really when you start to see the genre of the modern conspiracy theory emerge.
What is a modern conspiracy theory?
There's an implicit sense that the elite are corrupt, they don't reflect the true feelings of the people, and are even actively working against the interests of the people. I do think that charismatic leaders are often the ones who know how to take advantage of this narrative the best. So when Stalin justifies the failure of the attempt to nationalize grain in the Ukraine, leading to a horrible starvation where maybe 3 million people died, where he just describes that as the act of sabotage and blames the Trotskyists, it's going to be easier to swallow by many members of the Russian, both political establishment and also just common people, because it's coming from Stalin himself. So I think that there's definitely something about who is spinning the conspiracy that adds to its success.
People who develop conspiracy theories are great narrators. They're great at telling stories. They're great at putting information together in ways you haven't seen and you never would have thought of on your own. And when they do that, they're letting you into a secret world.
The history and secret world of conspiracy theories has involved child sacrifice, the Knights Templar, and corrupt clubs. In the 21st century, we've added pizzerias to the list.
Before QAnon happened, it would be possible to look back to the past and say, we can't think they were so irrational because that would be demeaning to the past. We have to show it more respect. At this point, when looking back at the past, we have to accept that they were every bit as irrational as we are.